What's up, guys? You're back here on Brockway's Vinyl Bites for another episode, and this is a special one this time. Check out who I got with me over here. This is Tara O'Reilly from Spinnin Prog. What's up, Tara?
Hey, I am so happy to be here, and I'm really looking forward to chatting about this subject because it's an interesting one.
It certainly is. It certainly is. This is the beginner's guide to prog rock, the Gen Z edition. Now, if you don't know what Gen Z is, Google it. No. If you don't know what Gen Z is, that's the generation that Tara and I are both from. We're both born in 98 and 99, respectively. So we are currently both 25. So we're very young prog heads, but we are totally into it, you know, and so we've been into it for a long time. 10 plus years, some of us longer than that. I've been listening to Yes my whole life, just like Tara has been. So this is going to be really fun because we are super deep into the prog. You know, once you own a Vandergraaf Generator record, you're kind of deep into it. There's kind of no coming back from that, you know, especially when you have 3 of them like I have. So what we're going to do is we have both picked, and we haven't talked about our picks, but we are talking about 10 albums that we think would be great to give to a beginner, say someone who wants to get into prog rock. We have selected albums, 10 each, that we would give to a beginner in the beginner's guide to prog rock, Gen Z edition. So I'm going to do one. Well, Tara's going to start it up. Can't speak. Tara's going to start us off, and then we're going to do one at a time until we're all out of our 10. So Tara, what do you have what's the first one that you would give to a beginner prog rock, younger person, even younger than us, who has no idea about the length of a song and 20 minutes? Oh, 20 minutes is too long. Go with that. But what do you got for us?
The way I thought about it was people of our generation and younger use Spotify. So the idea of sitting down with an album and listening to it the whole way through is just out of the question for them. So I didn't pick anything that would require long listening or anything. It's just like a series of tracks that they can, you know, throw it on when they feel like and then take it off if they want without having to sit down for 20 minutes, say, and listen to this. So my first pick, wherever it's gone, here we go, is Fragile. So Fragile is definitely like one of those gateway albums. Roundabout is being used as the closing credits for an anime at the moment called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So I know a lot of kids know the song.
That's cool.
And it would have been one of my gateways into it as well, because I heard it on a CD when I was a kid called Prog Rock, and it was what kind of got me into it. So yes, yes, Fragile would be my first pick for someone of our age or younger to get into prog.
That's a great pick. Yeah, I guess more on that later. Okay, I don't really have them in any specific order, but this is the first one I'm going to mention. Is probably the place that most people would start generally with prog rock, even without watching this video. It's Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. It's again, these may not even be our top favorite albums. You know, these are just great albums that, you know, maybe at one time were our favorites till we got further into the band or whatever. But I still reckon, I still think that this album is one of the best albums of all time. There's no question about it. Yeah. And there's lots of people who don't even listen to prog rock that really vibe with this album. And for good reason, because the songs have a way of flowing together. Like this is, obviously you can pick certain tracks out and things like that, but this is not one that you would ever want to listen to on shuffle. It's about 45 minutes, and it just flows so perfectly from top to bottom. And none of the songs are overly long either. You know, I think the longest one is 7 minutes, 48 seconds. That's Us and Them. Yeah. But, you know, again, you know, you listen to it as a whole, right? You don't pick apart the tracks. And if you want to sit and listen to a record as a whole, and it's your first time venturing sort of away from pop music and things like that, this is a great place to start. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Well, that's funny because my second one is Dark Side of the Moon. It turned 50. Was it last year or the year before?
Last year.
Last year, and TikTok is a big thing now among younger people, and The Great Gig in the Sky picked up a lot of popularity on that. And people were kind of starting to discover this raw emotion in that song, and it was making them feel something, which is what prog does to you. So that's definitely something that would pull in a newbie, I'd say.
That Great Gig in the Sky is fantastic.
It is one you'd sit down and listen to all the way through to get the ultimate experience with it. But it is also one that you can pick a track off and listen to. Like Money is huge. Like I remember hearing that in arcades and everything when I was a kid, these little gambling games that'd be playing Money to try and pull you in. Like,
oh yeah, the radios here even pull out tracks like Time and stuff and play those. Like, it's a very educational one as well, musically and emotionally, because people will hear the lyrics like, no one told you when to run, you missed the starting gun. One day you'll find 10 years have got behind you. Like, you know, that's something that you will experience in life. And as I said, it will emotionally pull you in. And eventually someone could decide, okay, I'm going to sit down with this album and experience it as much as I can, look at it, engage with the artwork and everything. Yeah, open that up and let's see the inside there.
Yeah, it's perfect. Like, perfect one to start off with. So, yes.
I agree. Here's the original master recording copy of it. Yeah, I agree. It is... it's such a fantastic album. It really is. And the lyrics speak on life, love, death, poverty, time, all of this stuff. It just covers everything. And it's like 45 minutes. It's just like, you know, less than an hour. Boom. One of the most life-changing records. And it is still, I still have more to say about this. I'm sorry. It is still used as like from audiophiles all around the world to test out sound systems. This is the benchmark when they enhance like the surround sound stuff. You know, now they got the Dolby Atmos, which lets you have like billions of channels if you want it to. I have an 11.1 Dolby Atmos surround system, and I got the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon 50th anniversary box set over there, and it comes with the Atmos mix. And like, how is a record 50 years ago still making these improvements every time it's mixed up and enhanced and things like that? It's still the same recording, but I'm getting chills even talking about this. It's like, you know, now they got the height speakers and things, and so you can hear the planes flying around and on the run and stuff like that, and clocks coming in at you from all different directions. And just the fact that this record is such a benchmark in audio recording to this day. It is the blueprint. Literally blue, this copy. All right, next up, I'm going to pick Rush, Moving Pictures. This album changed my life. When my friend showed me Rush, well, I'd already known Rush, like I'd known Close to the Heart and Tom Sawyer and stuff. But a friend of mine in high school said, Rush is the greatest band ever. You have to listen to them. So I got a copy of this, and I just laid on my couch. This is back over 10 years ago now, about 10 years ago, way back in high school. And I got a copy of this on vinyl, and I was listening to it, and I was like, oh my God, hearing Neil Peart's rototoms and just a whole mix of everything. Again, this is another one of those where, you know, this is also mixed in Dolby Atmos surround, and it is just fantastic. Another 40-year-old album that is still making permanent waves in the music industry.
Intended.
Absolutely. But the songs on this is just incredible, and there's nothing that is too much to bite off in one sitting. Like, it's like the longest song is 10 minutes 59. Okay, so 11 minutes. But there's other shorter songs, like Tom Sawyer is only 4.5 minutes. Red Barchetta just comes in over 6 minutes. YYZ, about the airport in Toronto, is just over 4 minutes. It's 4 minutes 25, and it's just like, what a little instrumental that is. They say so much in just 4 minutes there. It's unbelievable. And so if you're looking into getting into music like this is a great place to start. Absolutely, for sure.
I
Moving
agree.
picture fresh. Neil Peart, baby. Woohoo!
Goddamn Canadians, you're all great.
Every song on this is amazing. Seriously.
It is, yeah.
Every note is perfect. It's a 10 out
Mhm.
of 10 album. Not even a question.
Absolutely. My next one is another gateway for me that I heard when I was very young on a video game.
Uh-oh.
Tony Hawk's Underground 2.
Okay.
And the game started off with this like mad sequence, and there was a song in the background, and I was like, oh, what is that? That's so good. It was Break On Through to the Other Side by The Doors.
Okay, nice one.
So I was very young now when I heard that in the game, and I was like, wow. Now, some people might say that they're not very prog, but they absolutely are. Like, they have very progressive leanings. Their music is phenomenal. And this is their first album, and it's one of those perfect albums. Like, every song, one after the other, is just, how would you say it? Why am I so bad at forgetting words? Like, consistently good.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, and I mean, a beginner to this music might not have heard like one of these albums the whole way through. They might know some of their songs, like "People Are Strange" or something, from hearing it on the radio. So I would absolutely recommend someone to pick this up if they're starting.
That's a great album. I've had that for a long time. I love that record too.
Yeah,
and we were cut from the same cloth, you know.
I noticed.
Well, in that case, I'd better pull out Beatles' Abbey Road. Just going to give a quick mention to that because, you know, I kind of picked stuff that was like more bona fide prog, but I think that Abbey Road is one of the benchmark albums for prog musicians. Prog people heard that and went, "Oh, yeah, so we can go there."
That Abbey Road suite was a starting point for a lot of prog bands, I would argue. Like
100%, and I'm going to go on record right here and saying that when we do best album sides on the Prog Corner next week, I already know what my number one is. It's been my number one for as long as I can remember. I've always said that's the best album side in music, bar none.
Yeah.
Next one, where should I go from here? Oh yeah, perhaps I'll go with Radral. I know Tara already mentioned it, but it really is a perfect little introduction to people who want to get into prog. And then once you go in and you absorb this and you hang on every note to this, then you go on to their other albums like the Yes album. Maybe you like 90125 too. I know I do. That's a different decade, but Tales from Topographic Oceans, Relayer, The Ladder. They've got so many great albums in different spaces that you can check out, and they're mostly really good.
Yeah.
But this one is an absolute great. I mean, Roundabout is a huge hit. Lots of people have heard that song, like you said, with the anime show. I don't really know much about that stuff, but that's awesome. And it still gets constant radio play to this day. Roundabout. Sometimes you hear the really horrible single edit of it. Terrible. Like, why are you gonna do that?
Cuts out all the really good parts, like.
And like just like I remember I heard one that just cuts in like as soon as as halfway through Rick Wakeman's solo starts, and it just goes like not at the beginning, but like after one of like the soft John Anderson parts, and it just totally cuts out half the solo and just bam cuts right into that. Not into it. Not into it. Not into it. The whole thing. And you get lots of solo pieces on this too. That's kind of a prediction as to where Yes would go with doing the solo albums in 1975. But this is still 1971. They hadn't written a 20-minute track yet at this point. Yeah. That would come later in the same year.
That's it. I mean, it gives you the little weird pieces of music in it as well, like the Fish, Chandelier, gives you a little glimpse into what's to come.
Yeah. So you get Roundabout, and it's an 8-minute. So you get about 3 full-on band songs on this, I think, and then you get a couple of solo tracks from all the guys in the band. So you get Roundabout, which is a full-fledged band song, 8.5 minutes, perfection. Then you get Cans and Brams, which is like a Rick Wakeman piano take on classical music. South Side of the Sky. Oh, sorry, we have Heaven. South Side of the Sky, full-on band tune. 7.5 minutes, and then you get 5% for Nothing, which is just a little Bill Bruford drum solo, 30 seconds. That's his contribution. That's his solo. It's a solo track. Long Distance Runaround, which is a full-on band effort, which perfectly segs into the Fish, Schlindaria Praemateris, the bass solo, you know. Mood for a Day, the Steve Howe guitar solo. That's only about a minute or two. And then the 10-minute epic, one of my favorite songs of all time, Heart of the Sunrise. So a lot of Yes fans would definitely start here with this one. I know Jeff Shilka is going to be watching this, and he's going to be like, yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We love you, Jeff. So yeah, if you're just venturing into prog rock, I mean, even if you think of that scene in School of Rock when he's giving out the homework, and the keyboardist comes up to him and he goes, for what is he for Lawrence Roundabout? Yes, check it out. It'll blow the classical keyboard playing out your butt.
Yeah,
and he's right. You know, like that movie was so great, and the idea is like for Blondie. For for the drummer guy, Rush 2112. For you, Yes. It's like it's perfect, you know, and he was so right with a lot of his picks.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of them. God bless Jack Black, man. Love that guy.
Yeah.
Who you got?
Right. Next I have Led Zeppelin 3.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because this is very rock and roll, but has very progressive parts in it, and especially the actual. Now, this one you have to get the album to engage with the art on it. Like,
you got the spinning wheel too?
Oh yeah. My fingers are all sweaty, so I can't do it. But yeah, it's just such a good album. A sequence of songs, again, like no big epics, so it would definitely not be too intimidating for someone. This is one of my favorite Zeppelin albums. This and Presence would definitely be my top picks by them. And yeah, I mean, if it's not evident already by the tattoo, I just absolutely am obsessed. Like, they're brilliant. It's just got some really catchy music on it. I mean, Gallows Pole is a very good one to kind of get into that music. And yeah, definitely a great one for a beginner.
You know, my dad, when I was a baby, he went to the CD store to get that. He got a used copy of that, and they screwed up and gave him Led Zeppelin 2, and that is where my future as a drummer began.
Screw up.
I love Led Zeppelin 3. I mean, Since I've Been Loving You is possibly my favorite Led Zeppelin song. Mm-hmm. It's just perfect. It is perfect. Yeah. And yeah, because you have the different moods and the different vibes of the whole album, and it might open you to the idea of something that's more like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that could help you along to go, okay, they went here with their music. Now where else do we go? Oh, we can go here. Like that. So yeah, that's a great connection, Tara. I have to say, bravo. The next band is my favorite band of all time, and they get a twofer because they have distinct different eras. And so I'm going to give you two albums. I'm going to give you number one, Genesis Foxtrot, because this is the five guys in Genesis working really well together. And you have a perfect glimpse of the shorter songs like Can Utility and the Coastliners and Timetable and stuff. You get sort of the mid-long tracks, like, not that the tracks are mid, but they're like a bit longer. Like they're 7 minutes and 19 seconds with the opener track, Watcher of the Skies. And Get Them Out by Friday is 8.5 minutes. But they're generally shorter tracks on that side. Then you flip the album over, you flip the vinyl over to side 2, and you get Horizons, which is about 1 minute and 38. Oh, and you get one more track. You get Supper's Ready, which is 23 minutes. And it is totally, it doesn't feel like 23 minutes when you listen to it. It just goes by like nothing. Like there's about 7 or 8 different parts in it, and the way it goes through these peaks and valleys and hills and motions and stuff, and then it comes back and it sort of reprises the beginning of the song with that "Hey babe" at the end when the bells come, bing bang 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 bang. If you listen to it, you'll know what we're going on about. but yeah, it is just this band exercised. They totally put it out there how good prog could really be, and this is a great entry point to prog and to Genesis as a whole. And so is this one. We're going to 1980 now. This is them minus 2 members. So this album had Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins, Tony Banks, Steve Hackett, Mike Rutherford. By this point, Steve and Peter had both left, and you got Phil Collins, Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford. And this is actually where a lot of newer fans of Genesis came in with this when this came out, because all of a sudden you had a radio single. You had 2 of them. You had Misunderstanding, which was like a top 20 hit for them, their biggest hit at that time until Invisible Touch, you know. And then and then you had Turn It On Again, which was a big hit, and it's in 13/8 timing.
And Alone Tonight was a hit over here as well. So 3 hits.
Yeah, I'm thinking more North America, but and that's a great song too. And it opens up with Behind the Lines, which is 5.5 minutes. And it's just, again, that song, the chord changes and things in that is just epic. I mean, Tony Banks is a monster. And the way it flows into Duchess, goes really quiet with the little drum machine. And then it builds up and explodes at you. It's just awesome. And, you got Cul de Sac, which is a perfect example of a 5-minute prog tune. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Then you end with Duke's Travels and Duke's End, which just like the 2 tracks together come in at over 10 minutes. It is a perfect example of Genesis doing prog at the time. Awesome stuff. And these are definitely 2 albums that I could give to a beginner of, someone who's never even heard Genesis before, let alone prog rock, and go, okay, check these 2 out.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you Selling England by the Pound and all that other stuff after. But those are my 2 Genesis picks. So I had to cheat.
That's interesting, because I was thinking about pulling out Foxtrot for this myself. But I was thinking about it might be a bit intimidating for someone as well. Especially with Supper's Ready and all that. And I was thinking about how my journey with that went. And I would have heard it when I was younger. And songs like Get 'Em Out by Friday pulled me in personally because of the characters in it, like the Winkler and everything. And of course, that came back to me in later years, because I see landlords now actually behaving like that.
Oh, yeah. Same here.
I wouldn't be surprised if they... the Department of Genetic Control came in and put in a height restriction, So, I mean, it just goes to show how innovative they were with that album, because it's still completely relevant. But Supper's Ready was something that I took a few years to kind of come around to. Yeah. Because I was intimidated by it,
Makes sense.
To kind of understand it, you do have to be a little bit educated in prog rock by the time you listen to that, but it's definitely a good gateway.
It is a good gateway, and so is this, because a lot of people who got into this first then went back and heard this, and so it's a great thing, and I hope that by doing this we can help educate some people and possibly bring some new ones on board.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of Genesis, here's my next pick, is Mr. Peter Gabriel's album Melt.
I almost picked that one.
Yeah, great.
I had it in my hand.
Did you?
I did.
Well,
I did.
Like you said, we're cut from the same cloth. It was a toss-up between this and Soul for me.
Yeah.
But I ultimately went with this one because it's a lot more quirky and very progressive, where he has these kind of dark themes. He has all sorts of different themes in it. Of course, Robert Fripp is in there playing with him. You've got Kate Bush on backup in it. It's just such a good album. And it's not a scary one to get into. I mean, I was looking at Us as well, and I was like, this is such a beautiful album, because, you've got like Blood of Eden that he did with Sinead O'Connor, and I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in that, because, it's very ballady. But ultimately, I had to pull this one out because it's just unreal. All his albums are unreal, but I felt like this would definitely be a gateway into more advanced prog.
That is an amazing album. And you got the glossy cover too. Ah, The Perks of Living in Ireland. That is amazing.
That's probably from another country. It was probably imported in here, like.
No, we don't have, like, usually when we get glossy covers like that here, it's usually from the UK.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting.
Well, that's a good point, and we should give him a shout out for his new album too, because this thing is brilliant. He's never put out a bad record, and that is absolutely one of his best. You know, again, the innovation, like we're saying, like the innovation with that is unbelievable. Who would have ever thought to have a drummer play with no cymbals at all for the whole album? I mean, come on. And that intruder, awesome. And that was the introduction to the gated drum sound that Phil Collins would use for a long time, because that's him playing on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's great. He plays on most of the album. I think there's only like one track that he doesn't play on, and it's Jerry Marotta that does.
Yeah.
I think it's Family Snapshot. Beautiful song, by the way.
Yeah.
And you get Biko, which is 7.5 minutes. So Prog certified.
Such a powerful song as well. Very educational.
Yes, absolutely. I saw him play that live last year. It was great. It was awesome. Okay, well, I do have another Genesis related album coming up in a little while, but we're not going to go there just yet. I'm going to talk about, I don't typically pull out greatest hits albums, even typically on this channel, but there's one that is just too good to not. And that is MU, The Best of Jethro Tull. This is, I mean, sure, you can start with Thick as a Brick, you can start with Aqualung, all that. Amazing albums. But if you're really just starting out and you're like, well, I want to check out a couple of songs. Maybe if you're not into sitting to a whole album yet, you just want to check out a couple of tunes, go here. Go here. That 50 for 51 is good too, but this is just like, that's a triple disc. I think this is just a single disc, 11 songs, great stuff. I mean, you got Teacher, which is, oh, I love that song. You got Aqualung, the whole 6.5 minutes is on here. You got Thick as a Brick, the first 3 minutes of it, as opposed to the whole 45. You got Bungle in the Jungle, which I'm noticing in the community, in the prog community, that I get a little bit of flack for liking that song. And you know what I say to that? I don't care. I love it. I love that song. You get Fat Man. You get you get Living in the Past. You get A Passion Play, Part 8. I can't pinpoint where that is in the piece, because again, it's another 45-minute piece, but they took a single bit out of it. It's near the end though, because it's number 8. Skating Away, On the Thin Ice of the New Day. Great song. I actually just played that the other night on my radio show, deepnuggets.com, every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I also do a show. Okay, I'm going to take a minute here to
just shameless self-promo here.
I do a show on Prog Radio as well every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern. If you miss it, you can catch the repeat on Friday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern, but it's also available for streaming all the time on the website. And Tara's got some cool news about that too. Tara is eventually going to be getting her own show on Prog Radio as well. That is exciting. Give a round of applause.
Yeah. Cody, you're like my personal hype man.
Oh, that's what you got to do in places like this, right? Then you get Rainbow Blues and Nothing Is Easy. So there's nothing even over 7 minutes on this, but Jethro Tull really knows how to pack a punch in a short amount of time, and they know what they're doing. And even taking single edits out of bigger, longer tracks like Thick as a Brick and stuff. This album is one that I'd bet that a lot of Jethro Tull fans probably listen to this a lot too, even though it is a greatest hits album, because it's so good and it's so compact, and there's such a mix of all of the 70s material on this up until about Songs from the Wood. I don't think there's anything from that on here, but yeah, this is up till 74, I think. Up to 75, sorry. But it was released in the 80s, and it is a great little compilation. So if you're looking to get into progressive rock, heavy, hard-hitting progressive rock with flutes at the same time, this is a great place to start. MU, The Best of Jethro Tull.
Yeah. No, I think that was clever. That was clever pulling out a greatest hits one, because people these days don't pick up an album and go, oh, I'll take that home now and see what that sounds like. They'll just go, like I said, to Spotify or something and put on one song.
The Essentials playlist, right?
Introduction one, that is. But for them, I pulled out Aqualung because
almost on that.
We all, I'd say most of us, were introduced to Jethro Tull through Locomotive Breath, which is on this album. But it's got a lot of stuff that sounds similar to that. It's very rock and roll, hard rock.
Yeah,
and it's,
absolutely.
Like you said, it's got flutes and everything in it. And that's a fantastic introduction to prog rock, because once you get into it, you're going to hear a lot of flutes. You need to get used to that. Like, so Jethro Tull are the ideal band for that. And this one, it's got like Up to Me, which is a real rock and roll song. And my God, and the actual title track, Aqualung, is so good. It's just like one of those essential albums that you need to have in a collection. And like I said, it's not too intimidating. It's nice rock and roll. You've got those little bits of flute in there and you're like, woo. Ian Anderson is a fantastic singer.
He is.
He's really eccentric, which is very proggy. I mean, I think we're all a bit eccentric in this community, aren't we?
Yes. Yes,
so
we are.
Like a good starting point to that quirky kind of side of prog.
You're absolutely correct. And I know people, I have friends who are actually into like punk and don't even listen to prog, but who have helped show me Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
Especially this one friend I have, he's a big Green Day fan, like Green Day, Blink-182, that style of stuff. Mostly. Occasionally, he loves Pink Floyd and Jethro Tull, though. And so he's like Locomotive Breath, and he's like showing me all like these live performances of it, and Ian looking all crazy with the flute and one leg up, looking like, yeah. Oh, crazy. My next pick is one of the first prog albums that I ever owned in my own collection. A lot of people's favorite album from this band, and there's actually a connection to the next one I'm going to mention after this. It's King Crimson and the Court of the Crimson King. A lot of people argue that this is the first prog album ever made. I know that Tara's going to say different, but a lot of people do argue that this was the first album that was intentionally billed as a prog rock album. Maybe we should say that, because, well, I mean, it's like nothing that you've heard before. I mean, even if you've heard some of these other albums, you still put this on and you go, what is that? I
don't know. The Moody Blues came out and did it before them, to be honest.
This is a lot heavier and nastier than Moody Blues.
Well, have you heard all the Moody Blues Core 7 albums?
I haven't actually, but
well, there you go. They were doing it, and Procol Harum came out and did it, and Robert Fripp actually got lessons from Robin Trower of Procol Harum, so they were a huge thing before that album came out.
Definitely. I think my dad's got a really funny story about this album. I'm just gonna tell it. So he bought this in 1969. Yes, my dad is 73 years old. He bought this when it came out in 69, and he was living with his grandmother at the time, who was into like knitting and like just traditional old people stuff, right? And so he put this on her console when he came home, and he never heard King, like this was the first King Crimson ever, right?
His poor grandmother, she must have got some fright.
Oh, you're going to hear about it. So he put this on her console, with the big speakers in the side and the turntable in the middle. And he could hear some sound, but couldn't really hear that well. So he cranked it up almost all the way. And then 21st Century Schizoid Man comes on.
Oh, God.
And he says, all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, she was in a rocking chair, and I can see her knitting fly up in the air.
Oh, brilliant.
And she's going, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. And then I Talk to the Wind comes on. So 21st Century Schizoid Man is like 7.5 minutes prog metal epic. Then I Talk to the Wind comes on with these beautiful harmonizing flutes, and it's just quiet and beautiful and peaceful. And she's like, why can't the other song be more like this one?
Aww.
But that is what King Crimson does. They will go, it's very dynamic, and this is dynamics in a way that a lot of people haven't heard before until they've heard this record. I mean, Epitaph, In the Court of the Crimson King. It's heavy, it's quiet, it's melodic, it's beautiful, it's dark, it's light, it's all of this stuff. So King Crimson, In the Court of the Crimson King, and this will be your gateway into Lark's Tongues and Ass Picks.
Oh God. Good luck to you when you delve into that one. Right. My next pick.
That'll be our next steps one.
Oh God, imagine. Just frighten the life out of everyone, like your poor grandmother, your great grandmother, or great grandmother. Which one?
My great grandmother. I've never met her though. It was like long before on my time.
But yeah. So my next one is a band that I'm always going on about that aren't very popular.
Uh-oh.
Can you guess who it is?
I can guess who it is.
Go for it.
I'm going to guess that it's Vandergraaf Generator.
No.
Okay, good. Not good, but at the same time, like, you want to get people into the genre. You don't want to.
Yeah, there was no way I was pulling out Vandergraaf Generator for this video.
Well, I think I know what it. Oh, I think I thought I knew what it was going to be. Alex Harvey Band. Okay, all right. Yeah. It's educational for me too.
So this is framed by the sensational Alex Harvey Band. Now, Alex Harvey was a musical performer when he started out in his career. And he was actually, he won like a teenage idol competition and everything for his performances. And then he went into kind of doo-wop music and bluesy music. And then he was progressing, exactly. He came into the sensational Alex Harvey Band, and that was it. He absolutely peaked. He was unreal. And this album is very, very rock and roll, but it's got those little glimpses of prog in it. And I would absolutely recommend this to any beginner because it's so good. And like I said about Ian Anderson being a great kind of quirky gateway into prog, Alex Harvey is like Bon Scott's long lost brother, as Pete Pardo put it on Sea of Tranquility. I had never heard something so accurate in my life. He was so like Bon Scott, and you can really hear it in the music. He even kind of sounds like him. So if you're into AC/DC and all that and you want to get into prog, your next step is Alex Harvey.
That's a great idea. Now I got to go listen to that. If you know what, if you haven't heard it and Tara O'Reilly or Dermot, her dad from Spinnin Prog, recommends it, you have to go hear it because these guys have done their time with prog rock and they know what's up. They know what's happening. And you can pick this girl's brain about anything. I have, believe me, because I've done my time with music as well, as you probably know from following the channel. But she knows everything. Like, you can't stump her. The only thing I stumped her on was a Pussifer song, I think.
Yeah.
What was the name of that song?
I can't remember even.
It was Country Boner.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, great pick. So, anything, yeah. If Tara says it, you have to listen to it straight up. You got to at least try it. You may not like it, but you got to try it.
Yeah.
Next up is the album that Greg Lake would make after he would leave King Crimson. And you get Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Again, an amazing album. And there's nothing that's super, super long. I mean, Take a Pebble is about, what, 12 minutes, I guess, around that. But everything else is relatively short in comparison. I mean, Barbarian, which is, oh my God. I mean, think of the fact that you get so much music in 5 minutes. That's under 6 minutes. That is their borderline metal take on a classical piece from the, I don't even know what year, but it was Bela Bartok who wrote the piece. And then you go into Take a Pebble, you get Knife Edge, another hard-hitting, heavy, metallic prog track from 1970. So prog metal was not exactly born yet. Then you get the Three Fates, Tank, with that amazing drum solo in the middle, with Carl Palmer going at it with the gongs and stuff. And you get a hit single, like a massive hit single. It's a hit single which actually helped change the face of prog for all the years to come by giving a massive introduction worldwide to the Moog synthesizer.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, other bands probably used it a bit before, but it was still very new at this time. And because that was such a big hit single, when Keith Emerson comes in at the end of Lucky Man with that that was the first time that a lot of people ever heard a Moog synthesizer go, what is that? I have no idea. You know, like that type of shock when people first heard a sound like that. It was so different from 1970. And it's no wonder that they became one of the biggest prog bands in the world. Such an amazing album. And so none of these songs are too much to bite off in one sitting. So this is a great place to start. Like, you're not being inundated with a 40-minute track right off the top with these guys. It's like, you know, this album is only, what's the running time? Oh, it doesn't show, but it's not a very long album. So the first self-titled ELP album from 1970, 6 tracks, boom, there you go. Now you're in.
Great. And such a tip of the iceberg as well there. Like, you know, you hear that and you're like, wow, this is fantastic. And where it goes from there is just mind-blowing. Like, so yeah, great pick.
And the next 4 albums are all solid 10 out of 10 as well.
Yeah, 10 out of 10, 500 out of 10. Like, absolutely incredible stuff.
But then you get Love Beach. We're not going to talk about that here.
No, don't even bring that up.
What do you got for us, Tara?
My next one is another one with that dirty Hammond organ sound. Machine Head by Deep Purple. This was a great gateway for me. When I heard John Lord, I was like, oh yeah, geez, you have a fine copy of it there.
This is the new box set that just came out, the Super Deluxe.
Nice.
Set. Haven't even opened it yet. One of my favorite albums of all time.
Absolutely. It's one of those albums that leaves such a lasting impression on someone. I was torn between this and In Rock, but I feel like In Rock would be way too intimidating for someone starting out because it's insane.
That album has jazz on it.
Yeah, it does.
It has metal, it has blues, it has jazz, it has. This was at a time when bands didn't care and they were going and doing whatever. They were also like one of the big jam bands at the time.
Yeah, and for a reason. Like, I mean, Highway Star pulling you in is just the energy of that, and Ian Gillan's voice is just unreal. Like, I can't recommend this enough to someone getting into this music if you've never heard it, of course. It'll definitely kind of pull people in as well to the heavier kind of progressive metal side too. I feel like Richie Blackmore is very hard hitting on that guitar. Like,
oh yeah. All the metal stations play, like, you know, if you listen to something like, if you go on satellite and you hear Ozzy's Boneyard, they're playing Deep Purple every day.
Hell yeah. And I mean, a lot of people would have heard Smoke on the Water already, so they would recognize that one. And that might kind of pull them in a little bit. I feel like that's an essential one among any rock fan in general. So if they were to delve into the prog side, this would be the album to go for.
To think that anyone who's ever picked up a guitar before has played that riff. Yeah,
exactly. So it's a great one to just, oh, sure, I know that song. I may as well check out the whole album. And that's it, you're hooked.
Well, this is very interesting. I've only got 3 left. We've got 3 left here.
Yeah, 2 left, yeah.
Oh yeah, because I cheated and I did the Genesis. I did the Genesis one.
Yeah.
But it's Dream Theater from 1990. I could have possibly picked Tools Lateralis as well, so we'll put that as an honorable mention because that's a great one. Again, you get a single with Schism, a big song, a radio hit, right?
Yeah.
Lots of great proggy stuff on that, and this is, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the greatest albums of all time. I came into Dream Theater heavy in the last 5 years. I've known about them for a long time, but I came heavy into them in the 20s here.
Yeah.
And it was actually a great time to get into Dream Theater because we got that last album from Mike Mangini. We got one more tour with him, and now Portnoy's back for the rest of eternity. Yeah. He's back for the Dance of Eternity. This is, you know, they have a whole string of albums: Octavarium, Train of Thought, Black Clouds, Systematic Chaos, Images and Words, Awake, all life-changing albums. But this one, this really can open up the listener to the idea of a concept album and songs that flow. I mean, the songs are split up into scenes on this. So you get scene 1, scene 2, which is 2 tracks. You get scene 3, which is 2 tracks. Scene 4, which is Beyond This Life, so on and so forth for the rest of the album. So the songs are in movements by scenes.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be, again, this is just before the iPod generation. So this came out in 1999. So this is the newest one I have on this list. But it's a fine example of what a concept album is for heavy metal prog. And they execute it so well. I mean, the story of Victoria and how this guy keeps seeing this girl in his dreams, and he goes through regression therapy and finds out that he was her in a past life, and then he ends up getting killed or something at the end of the set, at the end of Finally Free. Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory, which is the second piece to Metropolis Part 1, which is a single track on Images and Words. And the song Dance of Eternity is perfect. It is a 5-minute, sorry, it's a 6-minute epic piece, and it contains all of these passages, not only from other bits of this album, but it harks back to the original Metropolis Part 1, and it plays a whole bunch of segments from all of these parts of this Dream Theater music, and it is just, it's perfectly executed. And the fact that they could even write something like that shows you how genius these guys are. This is an absolutely fantastic album. And so if you've gotten through all of these other albums and you're getting more into the prog idea of the concept album and things like that, this is a great place to go for sure, especially if you like it heavier, you know, not like growling, screaming, that type of thing, but it is heavier. It is very, yeah, you know what I'm saying. You get it. Dream Theater, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. Boom.
Yeah. And that's definitely a great one as well to check out the live performance of, because the way they had the guy on the stage, the psychologist on the stage with them and everything, here he goes now pulling it out.
Well, this isn't the original one. This isn't the original Scenes in New York. This is when they came back and did the 20th anniversary of it.
So good. One of my favorite live performances to watch, like, and their music is so technical and absolutely like mind blowing. So to see them doing it live is just like, what? It
is very technical, but it is also very soulful at the same time. Do you find?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
I'm telling you, Tara, I got to say one more thing. I'm sorry. The first time I ever heard Spirit Carries On, a friend of mine who's actually not a Dream Theater fan, he's like, this is one of the songs I love the most. I'm not kidding you. When I heard this song the first time, I was like almost jumping for joy. I was running around. It was late at night. I'm running upstairs to my mom, who's half asleep. I'm like, I think I might have just heard the best song I've ever heard in my life. I'm calling my dad, like, oh, I just heard this song. It's this amazing track. The guitar solo is just brilliant. I'm bursting with excitement, like the same as you do.
Yeah.
It was like the same, like the trade-off between Mike and John in the guitar solo there. You know, when the way they synchronize, the way they are so compatible as players, it was really hitting me, and hearing it just like, oh,
I love it. Love it.
I love it. Love it.
I love it. And on to another one that I love is one of my favorite Roger Dean artworks.
Oh, yeah.
The Magician's Birthday by Uriah Heep. Now these guys were part of like the big four back in the 70s, before it was like Metallica and Megadeth and all. Uriah Heep were up there with like Deep Purple and everything, because they sound very similar to Deep Purple. Yes, Cody, we know you like Metallica. We get it. Yeah, I mean, David Byron's voice is incredible. Ken Hensley's Hammond organ, Mick Box on that guitar. Mick Box can hold one note on the guitar for about 10 minutes, like no bother to him. He's just incredible. But it's a good one for someone starting out. They can just pick out songs on it. It opens up with a song called Sunrise, which is so powerful. You've got the nice little soft song called Tales, and it's a very thought-provoking song, kind of emotional. And it closes then with The Magician's Birthday, which is like a story of battle between the magician, and Mick Box is like battling with the Hammond organ player Ken Hensley. So it's crazy, but it's not like Emerson, Lake and Palmer crazy. It's like, okay, I think I can take this as a beginner.
Yeah.
So I would highly, highly recommend this one.
One of my introductions to ELP was Tarkus.
Oh my God, you poor thing.
Cut from a different cloth. I'd already heard them before, but my dad was like, "Okay, now check out Tarkus." Like, okay. Yeah. And you're right, Heap. Yeah, that's a great. I don't know. I have a couple of their albums, and I might have that one, but I do have The Magician's Birthday on a best of album, and that's a great song.
Yeah,
that's an epic. That's a great choice. Give it up for Tara, man. That's awesome. I got one more related Genesis one here, and I got another one after that. But this one is what many people consider to be the lost Genesis album from 1975. I think this is an amazing record. Steve Hackett, Voyage of the Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
You know this one, too. Yeah, you do. You know this one. This is an incredible album, and it's got Phil Collins. It has all the Genesis guys on it, minus Peter Gabriel and Tony Banks. So basically, it's got Phil Collins, Mike Rutherford. It has John Hackett, Steve Hackett's brother, and Steve Hackett. It is a Steve Hackett album, of course. It opens up with Ace of Wands, explosive drumming from Phil Collins. There's a lot of cool instrumental stuff on here. There's nothing too long. Like a Tower Struck Down, 4 minutes, 53 seconds. A couple of 1 minute tunes, like Hands of the Priestess Part 2. You get The Hermit, which is 4.5 minutes. Star of Sirius, which is 7 minutes, 8 seconds. So there's not it's not a big thing to bite off at once, but there is a long track on it. It ends with Shadow of the Hierophant, which is there's the money shot right there, right? Especially when you go see him play it live.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. 11 minutes, 45 seconds. And if you buy the remastered CD version of it, you actually get the full unedited version, which is nearly 20 minutes. Epic stuff. And yeah, Ace of Wands, Shadow of the Hierophant, Star of Sirius, some of my favorite Hackett solo tracks on here. It is very prog. I mean, the artwork tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Amazing album. I would definitely recommend this to any beginner. Absolutely. Yeah. He's an amazing guitar player.
He is. He's one of the top guitar players in the whole world. Like, unbelievable.
So underrated, I think. Like,
absolutely. He's forgotten about, like, for some reason.
His fans get it. I mean, he doesn't. I've never seen him play a place that wasn't sold out. But at the same time, like, you know, people say, you know, Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that. That's a different thing. But when it comes to prog, I mean, this guy plays metal, classical, blues, all that. He's in, man. He knows what's up.
Hackett is up there with Jimmy Page, like, absolutely. I don't get why he's so underrated. But anyway, moving on. I'm on my last one now.
Oh yeah, right on.
Speaking of the crazy eccentric side of prog, I think everybody needs to get into Frank Zappa. And I thought Overnight Sensation was just ideal. Now, personally, my introduction was Apostrophe when I was very young, and I heard the Don't Eat the Yellow Snow Sweet because I thought it was just really funny and entertaining. But if you were someone around our age or a few years younger, I feel like this one, it's a little bit more sophisticated in terms of concepts that he's singing about and stuff. I mean, like Camarillo Brillo, we've all met someone like that. Like, she could carry on without a comma. Someone that just won't stop talking, like, you know. And yeah, I mean, you've got some really perfect tracks on this. It's one you can sit down and you can actually listen to the whole way through without feeling like you're listening to this big long album.
Yeah, that's like half an hour.
Oh, that's absolutely hilarious. I am the slime coming through your TV set. Like, we all know people like that as well on television.
Well, yeah. government
It's
stuff.
ideal, absolutely ideal album for a beginner. So, Overnight Sensation.
You are not going. Okay, so we didn't correspond with any albums that we were going to pick for this.
Did you pick that one as well?
I did. I did. This is the CD that comes with Apostrophe and Overnight Sensation on the same disc.
Nice.
So, I mean, if you can get the two of them together, definitely do it. But Overnight Sensation, yeah, I mean, hearing that, being 14 years old and hearing Dynamo hum for the first time, and she looked over at me with a glazed eye and said, all this stuff. But then hearing the rhythms that Ralph Humphreys is laying down underneath that, that's funk.
Yeah.
That's funk. And you get other tunes on that, like Dirty Love is on that. Just the whole musicianship, especially Montana, right?
Yeah.
You get the xylophone and the horns and all this stuff.
That's like an introduction to fusion, nearly.
It is. It honestly is. And you get Tina Turner.
Yes.
You get Tina Turner.
Ike Turner wasn't very happy about her being on that album.
No, he refused that she get paid.
Yeah.
He's a dick. But anyway, we're allowed to say that here, right? Yeah, I make the rules. And Apostrophe, these two great albums go hand in hand. St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast, how did you write that?
I know.
And going into the final part of the Yellow Snow Suite, the fourth track, get on your feet and do the funky Alfonso. That thing. I mean, how do people write that and then play it? I mean, you could play it when someone wrote it, but Frank just sitting on the toilet writing up parts like this.
Yeah, he was genius.
He is the most perfect musician. He's the most perfect single musician I've ever heard of in my life, bar none. So Frank Zappa, yeah, I had heard this when I was a kid. I had heard the Yellow Snow stuff, and then years and years later, when I was coming back into the rock and all that stuff, not that I ever really went far away from it, but coming back into the rock, I was in a record store and found Overnight Sensation there. I was like, oh, give me that, gotta have that. And then I was hearing stuff like Dynamo Hum and all that. And it's like, man, this is some of the most genius stuff I've ever heard before. And these complex parts and rhythms and stuff is so perfect. It is unbelievable. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This has been a total blast to get to do this with the lovely Tara O'Reilly from Spinnin Prog. What do you got going on your channel in the upcoming week here, Tara? What do you got to look for?
We have people asking us to do a part 2 to our top Hammond organ players, so that's coming. And we're going to do another one on our favorite album covers that aren't Hypnosis.
Okay.
So that one is coming up too.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we got a cool live stream coming up this weekend on my channel here, so stay tuned for that. And go subscribe to Spinnin Prog if you haven't done that. Oh, unbelievable channel. I love that one that you did, the top 10 best prog epics. That's a romp of a tune. Love it. Love it. And I love you guys. I love Tara and Dermot so much. Just great people. And I'm super happy to see the success that they're garnering over on Spinnin Prog. It's just great. So thank you for taking the time to hang out here on Brockway's Vinyl Bites. It's been super great to have you, Tara.
And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Anytime. And I think you're going to be coming back. You're going to be coming back to do a Prog Rock Next Steps video. So we'll talk about that. But in the meantime, we're going to sign off now. So don't forget to rock on. Peace. Rock out. Yeah.